Hello and welcome to Dear Franny, the podcast of uncommon conversations about love. I'm your host, Francesca Hogi. Hey. I'm so excited for this episode today. I know I always say that, but I am always excited. But really, I got to talk to my friend Dana Hamilton, and she's amazing. And she has been on the podcast before, and I will be sure to link to her previous episode in the show notes because that was an amazing episode as well. But this one, there's so many new developments in Dana's life, and gosh, she's got a lot to share with us today. So for those of you who are not familiar with Dana Hamilton, she has written oftentimes humorous essays inspired by her very bizarre life, mostly notably surrounding sex, travel, and eating disorder recovery. She is a Playboy sex columnist, a former road tripper, and an anti-diet dating coach. She's going to explain what that's all about. Dana is passionate about sex positivity, body positivity, and pointing out the toxic similarities between the diet industry and modern dating. As an anti-diet dating coach, she helps people make peace with their bodies and develop the self-confidence necessary to have the sex and dating experiences they deserve. Dana is amazing. I can't wait for you to hear this. She enlightened me as to some things. It was like a really, really cool conversation about diet culture, dating culture, sex, the best cities to date, the worst cities to date. Dana has some very strong opinions about this that I really am excited for you guys to hear. And she's just an amazing, lovely human being. So I am really excited for you to hear this conversation with my friend Dana Hamilton. Dana Hamilton, welcome back to Dear Franny.
Hello. Thanks for having me back.
Of course. I'm so excited to have you back. It's great talking to you as always. Tell me and tell the listeners, how have you been doing since your last episode of Dear Franny a year ago?
The last time I saw you, I was in town. I was in LA to see my Playboy editor. And then I was still living on the East Coast at the time. And I was in the middle of a huge male bisexuality piece. And that ended up publishing. So last summer, I had a 5-page feature in now RIP Playboy print. So I was living on the East Coast. And then I was kind of hopping back and forth between East Coast and LA for work. I had to shadow a couple porn shoots. I also had some travel writing going on and a bunch of other fun stuff. And then I came back last September. So September of 2019, I came with the intention of honestly, if I'm going to be brutally honest, leaving the industry. I was like, I'm done with sex writing. I'm done with working in media. It's so volatile. I just want some stability. And I really just want some peace. And I also don't want to be known by any cis men who are like consistently sliding into my DMs on social media. Like, I was done with the harassment. I was done with being like, I don't want to say public figure, but just like being out in the zeitgeist. And I was going to move to...
Well, as a sex writer, like you were in that industry, you were a public figure. You did have a high profile.
Yeah, and I was kind of like done with being treated not honestly human. And I was like, I'm done. I'm going to leave. I like told all my contacts. I was like, hey, I no longer work in this industry. I like came to LA. I was going to move to Texas. I was going to move to Austin.
I know. I remember. That was the plan. Yeah.
Yeah. The plan was I'm moving to Texas and I'm going to get like, at that point, I was like, I'll be a bank teller. Like, I don't care anymore. I just want to have something stable and, not scary anymore. I came here and then I realized like, oh, I actually have a huge network of friends here, comparable to my network in New York. Started dating here and realized, oh my God, this is the easiest city in America. You can fight me on this, I don't care. But like, this is the easiest city to date in, hands down. And from my last interview, I've dated in 9 US cities, including New York, so 10. I know what it's like to date across this entire country and back. And I was just like, oh yeah, LA is easy as shit. And so I met someone. Well, I would never, ever advocate for someone to make like a huge life change based upon another person ever. But I did start dating someone here who I really, really like and kind of fell for and was like, okay, I think that there are professional opportunities for me here. I think that there are good friends here. And I think the dating here is really easy. So I decided to move here January 7th of this year. So January 7th, 2020, I came here and was like, making my way downtown, walking fast, gonna make a home in LA. And then like the whole world fell apart. So like, fuck me, I guess. but like, that's what happened. I was like, oh shit. So then a lot of things happened. I decided that like, I could never leave the industry. I love the work that I do, but I just really wanted to discover who my people were. And I realized that my people are formerly eating disordered women and non-binary people. And once I figured that out for my business, everything changed. Because now I'm in a completely different space, headspace, but also a completely different physical space and financial space and everything. Like everything in my life changed. And that was also due to the work that you and I did together. Because I hired you to help me figure out my career stuff. And it like was a game changer.
I'm so glad to
It really
hear
was. Yeah, because you were the person who taught me that like if I wanted to make a career out of writing, I could. And there are also so many other things that I love doing, and I just didn't really figure out a way to make that transition from like personal passion project into like a business. And so now I launched a Patreon, and my Patreon is over 100 Patreon members within the first like 2 months. It's been bananas.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it really is. I am really proud of that. I'm writing comedy for people who don't want to learn about dating and sex stuff. They know me as a humorist and just want to continue reading my work. And then I also put out like really important, deeply, I would say serious, but still with like my usual brand of like candor and humor. Stuff about dating and sex for people who want to just like strengthen their relationships with themselves and with other people. So I have that going on. And then I finally got the balls to be like, okay, I have been doing dating coaching unofficially through like friends and through random folks for years. And I don't want to say I didn't charge people for it or anything like that, but I was just like, oh, I can be working with people and doing like multiple months of work with really incredible humans who are looking to change their relationship with dating and dieting and see what happens when you really decide that you're going to divorce yourself from diet culture, which permeates every single facet of our lives, including dating, and realizing that like, oh, I'm getting in my own way because I am believing a lot of dating culture stuff that I should no longer be believing, and it's not worth my time anymore. So
wow. Oh, just that. There's so many things.
Oh yeah, just like my whole life changed, Franny, in the course of a year. Just that little thing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts.
Wow, it's nuts. It's so good. I knew about a couple of things, but I didn't know about everything. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I really want to talk about the coaching. Obviously, I'm like really excited to talk about that. Let's just back it up for people who didn't hear your first interview, or maybe people who aren't familiar with you and your career as a sex writer. So for people who don't understand what it is to be a sex writer, to be a woman sex writer, maybe explain a little bit about what was happening there and why that almost drove you out of the industry.
Sure. So I'm a female identified sex writer, and I'm young. And at the time I was unpartnered. So I was completely single. And a lot of people would read my work and then assume that because I'm single and that because I'm, young and, funny and out there and outgoing. And even though I shared the details of my sex life, that they essentially assumed consent that they can share their sex lives with me, which could be really triggering because I am a sexual assault survivor. So getting an inbox flooded with people telling me about like intimate details of their sex lives or things that they want to do to me or with me without my consent. I also had a stalker based out of Boston, which was really fucking scary. And it's a combination of being out there in the world as a writer and a person online who shares intimate details of her sex life with the intention of like destigmatizing sex, and just people not recognizing that I have boundaries and that my boundaries as a sex writer and educator are much stronger than the average person's. And because of my background as a survivor, like it's even doubly hard. I would get men, like every stereotypical creepy man that you can think of, like has reached out to me, but I've also was getting a lot of female identified people who saw me as an older sister and then would reach out for emotional labor, asking for advice without compensation, but also like I don't do one-off advice. nice. Like, that's not my jam and never has been. And so
I don't like that either. It's not helpful to people.
Right. You get that. Like, you probably get that all the time. And not even probably, I know you do. And so that's just part of being a coach and being a woman and having something to say and having a really strong perspective. People want to like bounce things off of you or whatever, but they don't realize that I have 300 other people who are trying to bounce things off of me. And if everyone bounced things off of me, I wouldn't have any time to do my career. So
yeah, exactly. Oh, I know. Sometimes I get these emails and it hurts me. And if anybody has sent me an email like this and I haven't responded, it's because there are 25 things for me to respond to in your email.
Right.
And I have a lot of other people emailing me, and a lot of those people are my actual clients, and I have to prioritize them.
Right. And not even that. It's just that I don't think that people understand, number one, boundaries online. That could be a whole other conversation, but it's really triggering when you receive a message and you can't respond, because all my PTSD brain wants to do is like put someone in their place or spend the emotional energy responding, and then not responding, which is the correct thing to do, feels like an act of powerlessness. So it was so hard for me to.
And it's stressful. Yeah.
It's so stressful.
It takes up emotional space, even if you don't respond.
Exactly. And so that was really tiring. And so I had that. And then also in my personal life, I mean, we got a little bit into my dating life in the last episode, but yeah, people are shitty to me when they figure out that I am just a normal person trying to date. And I was kind of done after like 3 solid years of being on apps. And then when people figure out who I am, they read all my work. They think that they know me intimately. And the fact is, you might know a little bit more about me, but number one, that is a persona. Even though it's very close to who I am as an actual human, it's still not 100% me. It's the face that you put on social media or in my writing. Oh my God, it's a facet of me, but it's not all of me. And it's also so lopsided because I was finding people who wanted to date me for the novelty of it, number one, or were curious about what sex with me was like or any of that shit. And they can go and find out a lot about me, but I didn't have the same luxury. So I was enacting this rule with people that I was dating. And like, I'll be really honest with you, the person I've been dating for the last 7 months still doesn't follow my business account, like still hasn't read any of my work.
Oh, wow.
And that's because like, I really wanted him to get to know me for who I actually am and not confuse it with the Dana Hamilton Playboy writer.
Wow, that must be so freeing for you.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And to have those boundaries respected, it was monumental. I've never had somebody treat me so kindly. I've had a couple of people I've dated who have been so respectful of my request to like, please don't read my work. Please don't follow my accounts. Like, please don't, do that until we really have a solid foundation. And I remember the person I dated before this current person, who's lovely and we're still in contact and he's still one of my really good friends. I think it took him 1.5 years until I let him follow my accounts. And so like, yeah, I move kind of slow. And I'm serious. When I like somebody, I invest in them and I want to get to know them, and we're not on any sort of like timeline. So if it takes 1.5 years, if it takes more than 7 months, if it takes whatever, then that's what we're going to do. So.
Wow. Oh my God. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how you put up with that for so long. I mean, I get it, but at least I get it. It's not about sex. I get it about dating. I get about confidence. Sure. And I mean, but to have people constantly sending you the details of their sex lives, it's a lot. That's a lot.
It's a lot. So
I don't blame you for wanting to escape that. But then, okay, moving on to dating in LA because...
Yeah, oh my God, so fun.
I love that you think that LA is the best place to date.
So fun.
I happen to also...
It really is.
We talked about this before. Like, I think that wherever you live, like if you're looking for something serious, dating feels hard. Like, I don't think anybody is ever like, it's likely to feel hard for you.
True.
However,
yes,
I also think that you can make dating fun anywhere that you live. And so a lot of people, because a lot of single women who live in LA think LA is the worst place. And I'm like, it really isn't.
Right.
Let me tell you.
It really is not. It is the easiest. As someone I've dated in New York, Boston, Asheville, North Carolina, Austin, Texas, Denver, Miami, Chicago, Portland, LA, Seattle, Missoula. I think that's everything.
Okay.
And everywhere. I will say with utmost confidence that LA is hands down the easiest place to date. And I will say a small caveat, which is it's really easy to date in if you are a New Yorker. So like, I'm a New York woman. I come to LA. These men have no idea what the fuck to do with me. I am a fun little novelty. I'm somebody who says exactly what they mean. I don't play any games. And I'm pretty, like, I don't stand people up. I'm very respectful of people's time.
Yeah.
And like, I show up for people. So like, if I commit to a date, as long as you don't fuck anything up in the interim, I'm more than likely going to show up on that date. I don't ghost people. I never do.
Yeah.
And so like, that's, as long as you're like a really good communicator and you say what you mean and mean what you say, like, it's a really easy place for people to date. I really do think that.
Wow. So I know, okay, I think you said that Portland is the worst place.
Yes, I hate Portland.
You're like, that's the worst place to
Sorry.
date. So tell me what makes Portland terrible.
Okay.
And then also maybe how does New York compare?
Okay, so New York, actually, I'll get into New York first because New York is like its own animal. So New York is very, very unique in that there are people, like, here's the thing about LA. LA, everybody says that like no one's looking for anything serious and or monogamous. And we can get into my entire coaching philosophy, which is like, I don't believe in goal-oriented dating. I do not believe in boyfriend or bust. I believe that a one-night stand is just as powerful, has the potential to change your life as a 2-month fling, as a 2-year relationship. I think that experiences are worth their weight in gold. And if we just really divorce ourselves from needing it to be serious and monogamous from the get-go and just like let ourselves just be open to anything can happen, so many things would change. But here's the thing about LA. Everyone says that like, no one wants anything serious. I'm sorry. Have you swiped here? Every fucking person is like, don't want to hook up. I want something serious. I'm looking for my person. Like, that is all of LA. LA is desperate for connection because unlike New York, it's so spread out and you can really very quickly fall into a trap of only seeing your friends and you only see your coworkers and you don't really see anybody else. New York is not like that. New York is like not a really easy place for you to feel physically alone. You might feel like mentally alone, but like physically, you're always on top of each other. You're always coming into contact with so many people. But in LA, it's really not like that. So everyone is desperate for connection. And so the thing about LA is that, yeah, there are a lot of, I mean, quote unquote, the industry is here, meaning the film and TV industry. There's a lot of schmoozing. There's a lot of like bigger, better deal type shit where it's like people are really into their appearance here in a way that's much different than New York. It's just culturally a lot different. But if you find your authentic like group, if you find the people who like aren't subscribing to any of that bullshit, there are a lot of amazing people here.
I agree with that totally.
So in New York dating is bananas because there's so much diversity in terms of like, yeah, people, but like where they're coming from, what type of industries you work in. Like I was cracking up the other day. My friend Devin, who's brilliant, she and I were sitting down and being like, do you remember dating in New York in your 20s and all the crazy people we've dated? Like if I went through all the people I've dated, it was like kindergarten teacher, an Apple Store Genius Bar employee, a Russian banker, an advertising executive who like filed for bank. Like, it's just like, it's literally every walk of life. Like
this is a very good point.
You know, like
this
I dated
a
voiceover actor. Yeah. Like all these people. And then like people who come from all different types of like socioeconomic backgrounds and everyone's looking for something different. So if you are a non-goal oriented dating person where you're like, I'm open to a fun fling or a lifelong partnership or a non-monogamy or whatever, like New York has it.
Yeah. If you're Carrie Bradshaw.
Yes, exactly. Like New York is like, it's a complete grab bag of people.
And that's
here.
So true.
There are a lot of people who are like deeply spiritual, who like actually care about people and are deeply empathetic. And even though it might be a quote unquote not so serious relationship, it can be carried out in a way that's like empathetic and kind. So I've had hookups here, like I've had one night stands here, I've had flings here, and everyone's been like very communicative, open, and like nice. I'm also dating someone like longer, I don't want to say longer term, but like we've been dating for 7 months. It's not like a fling. And yeah, like I hit the jackpot with who I date, like I'll be honest with you, but like I do believe that if for any reason
they hit the jackpot, Dana.
I hope who knows. I do hope that let's just say this. If for any reason I was no longer dating the person that I currently date, I am very hopeful that I would find someone else very lovely. I just think that this is a city full of really quality, awesome people. In the same way that there are those people in New York, but it's just that like New York, you're constantly overstimulated and you're constantly like overwhelmed. And so people really people cherish their alone time. People like aren't really looking to date and make connections because they're constantly making connections all day. In LA, you don't have as much connection and you're really looking to build like more meaningful things, but meaningful doesn't necessarily have to mean monogamous or long term.
You know, this is a really interesting conversation for me because as somebody who is also, I'm from New York, as you know, I've dated in New York, I've dated in LA, and I've always found dating in LA to be much easier.
Right?
And I don't know that I like articulated it the way that you have, but I think it is I do think that people are like maybe counterintuitively for people who are listening to this are less flaky here.
Yes.
I don't think
because there's a lot of planning.
There's a lot of planning. And yeah, like I feel like in New York, it's just so easy to be like, oh, hey, like you want to meet in 10 minutes? Like,
right.
And just because it's that easy to say, let's meet in 10 minutes, it's also easy to say like, oh, sorry, I'm not going to make it. You know
right.
what I mean?
Yes.
But okay, well, really quickly, tell me why Portland is the worst place for dating.
Okay, honestly, it's full of sad boys. Like, let's just be real. It's just a lot of like bright eyes listening, fucking white dreads motherfuckers. And I'm like, I'm not like, first of all, it's people who claim that they're super woke, but like aren't. Because if you were woke, you wouldn't have dreads, sir. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. Like, let's be really fucking honest. It's like a lot of people who are like, yes, I'm really in touch with my chi and like I believe in like saving the world and I'm vegan and like whatever. You can have whatever diet you want and like you can have it from a sense of like doing the world a service and that's great. But like if you're doing all that but then you're also like a terrible fucking person, like I don't want to date you. So, you know.
Oh my God, I love it. Okay, that's hilarious. I'm really glad I asked you that. Okay, so I want to talk about diet culture, dating culture.
Yeah.
How do you define them and how do they fuck us up?
Okay, so the very, very easy answer to this is that diet culture and dating culture operate on scarcity. And how that happens is that like it's this idea of I can only have one, like I have to have the perfect body or it's not even worth it, or I can't even live my life unless I look a certain way. And then in dating, it's like there's only one person out there for me. And unless I find that person, I'm fucking up. And being single is a failure and being not thin is a failure. And essentially, like, if we really think about it, I think about it in the terms of like a revenge body. Like the revenge body is like the perfect example of how dating culture and diet culture intersect, which is a relationship ends and the first impulse that we have to do is to is to become thinner in a way that makes our partner jealous, when in actuality, what should be happening after a breakup is like, I don't know, fuck what that other person thinks. Like, who gives a single shit if you have abs now? Your breakup has happened. Yeah. So why don't you go off and live your life in a way that doesn't inspire like stress and like white knuckling the idea of a body that you're supposed to have, or gives any emotional or like brain real estate to somebody who's no longer in your life. That's really it. It's about like being present and being like, okay, that relationship has ended. What I'm going to focus on now, instead of like waxing poetic about the past, is like where I am currently and who I want to date now and who I want to be in my life and what I deserve. And my body, I'm going to treat really well in terms of like, I'm going to eat what I want when I want it. That food holds no sense of morality, that your body holds no sense of morality. If you're in a bigger or smaller body, it doesn't mean you're better than anybody else. Yeah, like there's that aspect of it. And also, like, do you know anybody, Franny, who didn't diet before their wedding? That's a cultural expectation that we have, particularly on people who identify as women, where it's like, you have to look a certain way. They love work, like the diet industry and the dating industry love working together, because what both of them say is you have to look a certain way in order to live your life. A lot of people like hyper focus on diet culture and indulging in diet culture because they want to find a partner. They believe that the only way that they can find a good partner is via having a specific body. And that's just not true.
Yeah.
And if you believe that there's only one person out there in a world of 8 billion people, you have another thing coming, because there are there are 20 people in your zip code. There are 1,000 people in your state. There are hundreds of thousands of people in the country or world that you could build a beautiful, caring, loving relationship with.
Yes.
Like, seriously. So this scarcity mindset of like one body or nothing, or one person or nothing, is bullshit. And and essentially, like, how my career kind of started was I started talking about, this was something we talked about in my last episode, but I got into sex writing because that was how I started my eating disorder recovery, was realizing that I wanted a pleasure-based model for recovery, and I wanted to treat my body well. And sex was one of the easiest ways for me to do that. And so moving forward, what I realized was, like, the moment you start breaking up with diet culture and all these lies that diet culture tells you, and diet culture is anything that like causes you to have a disordered relationship with food or exercise or movement, I should say. Mm-hmm. So anything that tells you that you need to eat a certain way or move a certain way or look a certain way is diet culture. Mm-hmm. And modern dating culture is just this, like, modern dating culture, if I'm being very honest, is the idea that it's, first of all, it's super heteronormative. It leaves like no room for nuance in terms of like people who have sexualities outside of heterosexual, which include me, because I don't identify as fully heterosexual. And it's the Disney princess fallacy bullshit where it's like you have to be chased by a man. That monogamy and marriage are goals, as opposed to just like things that may or may not happen in your life. I hate the idea of life milestones. Fuck that. You can do whatever the hell you want. If you get married, great. If you don't get married, that's also great. Like, I think it's really beautiful for people to date long term and never get married, because it means that you're showing up every day, making a conscious decision to date, and there's no like paperwork obligating you to be there. It's like of your own volition.
Oh yeah, we don't plan on getting married.
Yeah, I don't plan on getting married either.
We're good. We're like, why? We don't.
We don't need the pay. And like the best quote that I ever had. My friend, and I'll call him out. His name is Dave Heel, and he lives in Denver. And he's one of my friends who I met while road tripping. We didn't date. I met up with him and his partner Mish, who are like the sweetest couple on the planet. And Dave and I were just driving one day, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't want the government involved in my relationship." And I was like, honestly, could not have said it better myself. Like, could not have thought of another way of saying it, where it's like, I'm happy to have a domestic partnership in case, health insurance or my partner is sick or anything like that. I'm happy to have those in place as safeguards. But in terms of an actual marriage, I don't need that. Do I still get to see my person every day? Cool. Like, I'm good, Yeah. So, yeah.
So, I agree with like so much of what you said, especially about the scarcity model in dating culture. And it's so harmful and it's such a lie. It's like,
it's just
so you're just saying that everyone who is with somebody just happened to just go to school with or live next door to their one soulmate in the whole world. It just doesn't make any sense. But I guess, so how, going back to diet culture though for a moment, and obviously it's so harmful, and you're right, it's such a great point. Like, everyone dies before their wedding, and it's just like this, it's just this given. Like, of course, it wants to be the day that you look the best and all this whatever, and the best is the thinnest and whatever. And it obviously just diminishes the quality of so many people's lives. Having that programming always in your head, judging you. But how do you balance that? And I say this as somebody, and this, like, I had to lose a bunch of weight, like, for medical reasons, because I was a person who was very comfortable. Like, when I was younger, I was much thinner, and then I got older, and I was like, I'm just getting older. My body's changing. I don't care. It doesn't change my value as a person. And I was very comfortable with my larger body. It didn't impact anything, my dating, my nothing. But then my doctor was like, you're pre-diabetic.
Right. So, I remember you telling me that.
Right. And so I wound up being like, oh, I can't just eat whatever I want. I can't just not exercise because I don't feel like it, because my body was legitimately like, bitch, do you want diabetes?
Right.
And the answer is like, no.
Yeah. And like a lot of people like are afraid to break up with diet culture because they believe that if they don't like abide by diet culture's rules, that means that they are putting their health at risk. And here's the thing though, I believe in a philosophy called health at every size, and there's a health at every size movement that's going on. And like you said, Franny, your doctor, like I couldn't tell by looking at you what your blood work is, right? In
Yeah.
the same way that someone looks at me and I am in a thinner body. And when I was at my thinnest, which was a few years ago, it was because I have an autoimmune disease and my small intestine stopped working. So I stopped absorbing nutrients.
Oh my God.
Here's the shit. So like someone could see me on the street, and the thing that actually made me really angry, because I was working in book publishing at the time and I was going to an office every day, and I had multiple people on my staff come up to be like, "Oh my God, you look amazing. What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm slowly dying of an autoimmune disease. Do you want it?" Like, fuck you, lady. So here's the thing. And I was on so much medication to stabilize it. Oh my God, I can't even tell you. And these are medications that are like harmful for my liver, long term and shit like that. And like, I understand what it means to be like, to have someone look at you and assume your health. The thing is,
Yes.
I can look at you in a larger body and then a doctor says that you're pre-diabetic. And then I can also see somebody in a body of a similar size and I don't know their blood work.
Totally. Yeah.
So my argument is that there can be someone in like whatever size you were that was bigger. There are plenty of people out there who are that size or larger who don't have any health issues.
Totally. Absolutely. My sister is one of those people, by the way. Yeah.
And beyond that, there are plenty of people who are in a size body that's bigger than, me at my thickest. So like you can't look at anyone regardless of their size, thin, like what they call straight size, which are meaning like thinner, or people who can find, like straight size people are people who don't have any trouble walking into, a mall and finding clothes that fit them. So I identify straight size, and I have been for a long time, but I've also not been straight size. I've been bigger, and I've, have had trouble in the past, but for right now, there are people who exist in larger bodies who may have medical issues, and there are people in smaller bodies who may have medical issues. What is the theme for all of them is, regardless of your health status, because I am still someone in a straight size body with an autoimmune disease, I still have other medical issues going on. It doesn't mean that, number one, I am not capable of being loved. And number two, that I'm not deserving of respect. So
Absolutely.
the thing about health of every size is it's not saying like, oh, like fuck. First of all, it's not saying fuck health. It's just saying fuck health as the barometer of how well we should treat people. That's really all it is. Mm-hmm. It's just saying that like, someone who's in a bigger body who has some health issues isn't subhuman, and the body positivity movement, which I know has been co-opted by thin white women who have a belly roll and love to show it off, was really the foundation of it was in disabled people, in people in Black and brown bodies, or non-white folks, and people in larger bodies. So the whole movement that a lot of people love to co-opt for like what the appropriate term for those white women who are going around is self-love. And like, I am happy to say, I'm happy that there are so many self-love accounts and self-acceptance accounts and body love accounts and body acceptance accounts, but I do not appreciate when people co-opt a movement that isn't theirs. Mm. So, and a lot of fat phobia is based in racism and Eurocentric standards of beauty, which are thin, white, straight hair, all this shit. So it's like that's the thing that kind of pisses me off is like when people don't understand that there are like social justice movements, like that is the basis of body positivity. And I'm not going to be, and the thing is, what I have found is the tenets of rejecting diet culture are intuitive eating and intuitive movement, which means that I only eat the things that I want to eat when I want to eat them. And when I give myself freedom to enjoy all the foods that are out there, guess what? I binged less. Like that was the thing that like really cured me of my eating disorder, was when you feel like things are restrictive and you can't have X, Y, and Z, guess what? That's what you're going to want to eat more.
Absolutely.
So a lot of the fear of
It's like me and mint chocolate chip ice cream. That's all I want to eat.
right. But then, Franny, there's a point where you like, so you now have, so I wave a wand, I give you permission to eat chocolate chip ice cream. Are you eating that every meal, every day for months on end? No.
Not every meal, but every day, yes.
Sure. And you know what? If that's what makes you happy and that's what you do, and that's the thing, like people are really fearful of trying to learn intuitive eating because their fear is, oh my God, all I'm going to do is eat burgers and fries and shit all day. And that's not true. When you're intuitively eating, you're eating kind of everything under the sun. And sometimes it's things with high nutritional value and sometimes it's things with low nutritional value. And the moment that you stop labeling foods as good or bad is when your body is at whatever size it needs to be and wants to be to survive. And in terms with like exercise and movement too, like I suffered a back injury last year and all I wanted to do was work out, but I had to listen to my body and be like, oh, rest is really important. And a lot of things are really important. And I realized that there are some things that I used to do to work out that I really didn't enjoy and was doing it solely because I felt compelled to. When in actuality, when I found the type of movement that I love, like I actually love Pilates. My relationship with Pilates started out really, really unhealthfully, and I was doing it compulsively. And then I realized, oh, actually, I love it when I don't force myself to do it all the time. I also realized I fucking hate the treadmill. I hate the elliptical, but I love hula hooping. I love swimming. I'll always love swimming. I love riding my bike. I hate spin classes, but I love being out in nature, and just being like, oh, these are the things that I enjoy. And essentially, like all this is to say is there are so many rules in how to live your life in terms of like, you have to eat X, Y, and Z things or you're bad, or you have to move in X, Y, and Z way or you're bad, or you have to not be single because being single is bad. And I just got to a point where I was like, I'm throwing all the fucking rules out the window because like I found that whenever I quote unquote follow the rules, I'm I don't know, fucking miserable. And when I let myself do what feels good to me, I feel a lot better. And that actually really defined my relationship with non-monogamy too, where I realized like, oh, I don't think fucking one person for the rest of my life is really going to work for me. And right now I'm dating monogamously because of the pandemic and just like safety measures. But eventually some time will go on and I might want to return to non-monogamy again. I don't know right now, but like, and that's the other point of it too, is like, instead of like planning out, like there's so much fucking planning when it comes to diet culture. Like I would have to, like, if this were back pre-pandemic days, I would have to like research a restaurant and like figure out what I was going to eat before I even got there.
Oh, wow.
I would have to like pre-plan like so much, like, oh, I have to hit X amount of workouts this week, then I have to cancel this plan with this friend so I can get my workout and all this shit.
Oh,
and then I got to a point where,
no wonder you were miserable, Dana.
right. And then with dating, I was like, I was constantly throwing myself into the future and being like, what if he cheats on me, or what if this text message means something that it doesn't, or whatever. And intuitive eating and intuitive movement have really forced me to be like, well, what do I want right now? Like, I want a PB&J. I also want to go out with my partner and go to a comedy show. I don't need to think about tomorrow. I don't need to think about the next day. I just need to be fully present in this moment and be like, what does my body need? What does my soul need? What does my heart need?
Amazing.
And that has been really, really helpful. And when you get to that place, you realize that relationships will be significantly less stressful because you're not launching yourself into the future all the time. You're just like responding to things as they come.
Yes.
And that's been really, really helpful. Once I healed my relationship with my body, I could finally heal my relationship with others, for sure.
Oh my God, it's huge. All that judgment, all of that, criticism. It's like once you stop doing that to yourself, then you can look at other people with so much more compassion and
Yes.
so much
And
less judgment. It's so beautiful.
also, right. And have the knowledge that if this thing ends, like if this relationship that is currently a booty call that I hope to develop into something else, if that doesn't go the way that I plan, I'm really good at thinking on my feet. I'm really good at getting myself out of situations that I'm not happy in. I'm really good at recognizing that my life, my goals should never be how my body looks or if I'm partnered. It's just I have no control over any of that. It's people split in and out of my life. And as a road tripper, that's what I learned like really, really strongly, which is that like some people aren't permanent and that's okay. And it's also okay to build things with people, but the way to a like long-term monogamous relationship, it's built one day at a time. It's not built with all of this pre-planning. Because shit sometimes happens. Sometimes life throws us curveballs.
Oh, it
Sometimes,
sure does.
things come out of nowhere and we
COVID-19, anyone?
right, and we can't control other people, and the last thing we should ever do to our partners is attempt to control them, because that is not an act of love. That's an act of I would even argue violence to control partners. I think that that's very abusive. So yeah, but that is to say that if someone's doing something that doesn't work for you, instead of trying to mold them into what you view they should be, you recognize your boundaries and be like, hey, this doesn't work for me. I wish you the best. I'm going to go find something that does work for me. And I hope you do too. And, it's really, really changed my relationship with dating, because I was one of those people that was monogamy or bust for sure. Or long-term or bust. And I wanted to build really deep emotional, links with people, and I realized that I can build things that are powerful and that are life-changing and are temporary.
Wow. Dana, amazing. Wow. I'm just so, well, now I need to have you back a third time just so we could talk about dating coaching. Really quick, how, so you mentioned already, that you are an anti-diet dating coach and that you work with women identifying and non-binary people. How did you come to that specific niche? I mean, this is a big question.
Yeah. I realized, so when all of that stuff that happened last year, where I was like, I'm leaving the industry, fuck all of this, like I don't want to do any of this work anymore. It was the catalyst that happened was because I was dealing with a harasser, a male identified harasser, multiple actually, and I had to shut down all my social media, and I just essentially got rid of like a lot of my male followers, I'll be honest with you, and people I didn't know, because the person who harasses me was making fake profiles to talk to me. So anything that looked suspicious, I just got rid of. And then once I kind of purged all those people, I realized that the people that I was in contact with most were the people in the recovery community, because I am a part of it. I'm 13 years a part of it. And a lot of non-diet dietitians and a lot of HAES dietitians. And my circle naturally is just a lot of people who believe in the same body image work that I do. And I would talk them up, and I would be like, oh, I just love the work that a lot of my friends are doing. I wish I had access to this type of these resources back in the day. Like when I was going through my recovery starting at 19, which was, almost 13 years ago, I would talk them up and they would talk me up, and we just kind of would constantly have our fan bases really meet. So my sex writing fan base would be exposed to diet culture, anti-diet culture stuff. And then all of my anti-diet culture friends would talk me up, and there was just this overlap. And then eventually I realized, oh my God, there's just so much overlap in these communities in general. I would love to these are my people. Like, these are the people that I want to talk to. I've been in that position 19 or 13 years ago, where my relationship with my body was the thing that was really getting in the way of my dating success. And just success in terms of relationships with other people in general, romantic or not. And I was really scared of living my life authentically. And I was really scared of just so many things. I was just terrified of so many things. So, yeah, that's kind of how I got into this work. And then as I started, and then my writing was that too, because my writing has always straddled the fence of like body stuff and sex stuff and how they all intertwined. And in my actual like portfolio, like I wrote a piece for Marie Claire magazine a few years ago where I made my stomach, which was the part of my body I hyper focused on as a disordered person, its own Tinder profile. Nowadays, they would ban me for doing that. And I have been banned for other reasons because when you live in Asheville, North Carolina, you're bored out of your mind. Sometimes you pretend to be a serial killer to like liven things up. So I am banned from Tinder. But like 4 or 5 years ago, I made my stomach its own profile, and it showed that like even the part of my body that I didn't like the most, like people still wanted to go out and date me, and I didn't have any idea what the rest of my body looked like. It was stupid. So like body image really does affect your sex life. It really does affect your dating life. And it really started with, yes, finding my community, but also my work as a journalist and published author and all of that stuff, just really organically, honestly, if I were being honest.
Amazing.
And it's been awesome. And I'm so happy to be doing the work that I'm doing. And I'm so glad to work with this specific community because, and I work with partnered people too. So there are a lot of people who aren't single, but just want to have better sex and dating lives with the person that they're dating. Yeah. And I work with them too. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Dana,
Yeah.
I love that you're doing this, and I know that you're amazing at it, and I love your niche, Franny. And I think that's just, it's so powerful when, you know, to be, as a client, it's so powerful to find a coach who so aligns with your own, you know, worldview and experience. And so I know how powerful that is. So I'm excited for your clients. That's
Thanks.
So cool. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And it's just, I got to a point where I was like, there's so many dating coaches out there who take it way too fucking seriously. And like, I really do believe that dating is not that serious, number one. And number two, like, I'm just not the type of coach who's going to like take both your hands and be like, this is the first day of the rest of your life. This is the most important journey. I'm like, no, go get your clit like sucked. Like, have fun.
Well, hopefully
like,
no
seriously.
coach says that to that really weird, like, okay, person.
Like, it doesn't have to be that precious, but it's just like, I just wanted it to be conversational and fun. Yeah. Like, dating is supposed to be fun. If you're working with a dating coach and you're not having fun, then they're doing it wrong. Like, seriously. You're supposed to be having a great time.
Should absolutely be fun. Oh my gosh. I have one last question for you, Dana. And you answered this last time because I always ask it. But if you had a megaphone loud enough for the whole world to hear, and you could send out one message about love, what would that message be?
Love is the only facet of your life where you can work really, really hard and nothing is guaranteed. And this is something that a lot of people struggle with because in our culture, we're taught that if you work really hard in school, you graduate. You work really hard in your job, you get promoted. You can work really hard in dating. You can date your face off. It honestly comes down to the universe sending people who are vibrating on your frequency. And sometimes they're sent to you and like with impeccable timing, which I will say is what happened for me. And sometimes they're sent to you when the timing isn't super right. But a lot of it comes down to just like going along with the ebbs and flows of life and just keep holding space and believing that there are good people out there. And a lot of it comes down. Yeah. And it comes down to like some mindset stuff that if you don't believe that there is a person out there for you, that is a self-fulfilling prophecy. The first step is believing.
That is a word. Yes. Yeah. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. 100%.
Right. It's like, it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if so, my work is to get people to believe that there are amazing people out there throughout the entire United States. And I know that because I dated across the entire United States and back and fucked half of them for you. So I know that they're out there, you know? So like, don't come to me thinking that those people don't exist because they do. The world is full of amazing people and it's very possible to find people who are, at your level. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Dana, I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you.
Thank you for the work that you do. And thank you so much for being back on the show.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me.
I will, of course, link to your social media and to your website in the show notes. Everyone, please be sure to check them out. If there's any one last thing that you want to directly make sure people know about.
Yeah, so I have a Patreon. I love my Patreon so much. It's for
I'm going to link to that too.
Yeah, so some people just want to follow me because at the end of the day, I'm a humorist and always will be. I'm a funny, weird lady. So it's patreon.com/Dana Hamilton. And then my website is danahamilton.com. And you can learn all about my coaching. And you can also just read my portfolio because I still am a journalist for a bunch of major outlets. And yeah, follow me on social media because I do a lot of cool things with sex toys and giveaways and teaching people to have more pleasure in their lives. And the first Sunday of every month, I let the floodgates open and I answer 6 questions about sex and dating that anyone can join. So I have Sex Talk Sunday, the first Sunday of every month. And if you are a VIP Patreon member, you get your own Sex Talk Sunday, the second Sunday of every month. So
fantastic.
Yeah, that's what I'm up to right now.
Oh my gosh, so much good stuff. We'll all be in the show notes. Thank you so much, Dana. Have a beautiful
Franny.
day, honey.
You too.
And there you have it, my conversation with Dana. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Be sure to check the show notes where I will be linking to Dana's website and to her social media. If you are interested in talking to her about dating coaching, as you know, her specialty is anti-diet dating coaching. And, I just think that's amazing. And it's such a cool and necessary niche. And I'm really excited that she is the one who is filling it. So I wish her so much luck in that endeavor. And please support her, follow her on social media. I will be linking to her social media, of course, in the show notes, so check that out. You can also find in the show notes links to my social media. I'm at Dear Franny on everything, especially Instagram and Twitter is where I'm most active these days. And the podcast is at Dear Franny Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. And for those of you who have rated the show, reviewed the show, thank you so much. And if you are enjoying the show, I would ask you to please take a few moments to just rate it 5 stars wherever you're listening. And if you feel moved to write a review as well, then I am extra grateful for that. But, hey, I'll take just the rating. It's a lot easier. It takes a lot less time. Either way, it helps me and the show. So thank you so much. If you are enjoying the show and you want to share it with your friends, anybody you think might benefit from it, that would be most appreciated as well. That's how these things get out there. People hear the show by recommendations. So your recommendations mean a lot and your attention means a lot. So I don't take it for granted that you are spending some of your precious time with me today. And I wish you well. I wish you love and health and peace and joy. And until next time, take care.